Hi everybody, thanks for stopping by the Tufin booth to learn a little bit more about the Phantom automation and Tufin integration. My name is Rick Rutledge. I used to work for Tufin, and I switched over to Phantom to get my hands into the automation scene of the Security Operations Center more. Then they were acquired by Splunk last year, so now I work for Splunk. So let me introduce you first to what Phantom is, for those of you who don't know. So Phantom was designed initially to automate based on security alerts. So you get maybe a phishing email, a log from a malware endpoint product that says, hey, you've got a nasty file here you need to deal with. So Phantom integrates with all the other products in your environment. There's no functionality within Phantom to actually do the security checks, but we maybe make an API called a VirusTotal, maybe go to Carbon Black and block a file on the endpoint. So we integrate all those products through the APIs and make a nice, easy interface for you to actually build that workflow to automate the first steps in the initial triage of an event. The big pieces for the problems are the amount of resources that you have. The biggest issue there is lack of manpower today. You have hundreds of alerts coming in daily. Each analyst can only do so much. So you get to a point where you have alert fatigue, things get dropped. Maybe they're not investigated as thoroughly as they should be. The products, number of solutions, just walking around RSA this week, the amount of products available, it's a little bit overwhelming. So companies have a lot of products to deal with these issues, but not the manpower to fully utilize all of them. So that's where automation comes in. It makes better use of the things you already own. Of course, the alerts, number of alerts that are coming in constantly, you have to take the highest tier alerts off the top of that to deal with, and there's stuff that doesn't get addressed. And then, of course, the business issues. Everything's static from the point of view of how you're dealing with events, not dynamic enough. The speed at which you can respond. A security event could, if it's a serious breach, it could get in pretty deep, compromise data, get out to the world by the time an analyst even gets to it. So with automation, you can respond to these events within seconds. And then, of course, the cost of the manpower to get behind all that. The piece where we fit in for the operations team, you have all your devices today that are doing a great job of gathering information, blocking things, making sure it's secure, and they're feeding you all these alerts. They go into your SIM, your threat intel platforms, but then you have the analysts that are usually where the bottleneck is. You have to deal with all that stuff and make a decision about it. So that's where Phantom fits in, is looking at the data that's coming from all of your products, figuring out what needs to be addressed, and then taking action against it. So calling on products that you have, like the firewalls, to make a decision to block something, opening tickets even to go have a manual, something done manually. And this is where we're calling on products like Tufin to maybe go block an IP address or an app. The terminology for within Phantom, the structure is you have your data sources that are feeding you, as I already mentioned. Logs being collected in your SIM, other products that are doing that collection, and then playbooks are what respond to that. So a log comes into Phantom, or a phishing email is a popular use case, for example. A playbook is designed specifically for that use case. The data hits Phantom, a playbook tells what sequence of events need to be done to respond to that event, or to that action. The actions are what we're doing against your devices. Those are basically API calls to your products. So maybe open up a ticket, block a file based on the threat that came in from an email. And then the apps are our way of integrating with those APIs. So we have an app for about 240 products that are on the market today, Tufin being one of those. So that basically gives Phantom the ability to say, hey Tufin, go block this IP. One of the actions I've used it for recently was to tell me, if these two IPs can talk, what's in between them? It tells Phantom, and then we can go do further investigation on those devices. So there's a lot of enrichment that is done with automation. That's probably the biggest value add for most customers. In Phantom speak, the assets are basically your instance of each of those. You have your Tufin server, you set it up as an asset, and then you have owners of those assets. So you might go to someone for approval to block something, for example. Different use cases from different areas. Obviously, operations is where most of our focus is. So phishing investigations, these are just some popular ones, but on our website we have about 120 different playbooks that are use cases. And those are just to give people ideas of what you could do with automation. So the organization of everything is, within Phantom, we have it broken up into a few different pieces. The automation is the main piece. Playbooks that trigger event triage when something happens. The orchestration component is, if you're logged into Phantom, you can call on these APIs manually from one screen. It's kind of a single pane, but it gives you the ability to call APIs from multiple products. This is an example playbook. The idea here is that file comes in, we're looking it up to see if it's bad or not, get a file reputation on it, maybe go block an IP address that the file came from. So those are actions, and this interface is drag and drop. Any analyst can log into this and design what the flow looks like, and these are basically calling APIs to products. For example, unblock and block an IP could be calls to Tufin to go make a best decision of all the firewalls in that path that need to have a change made. multiple vendors that we're tying into today. As I mentioned, we got about 240 integrations on our website. It's just Python code, and we will share that with you. So we've got customers that write their own apps, vendors that write apps for their own products. Going onto our website, you can see what all the capabilities of those are. So this is kind of a sample of the collaborations view within Phantom. So an event comes in, and we've got artifacts. This would be like URLs under these if you expand those out. And then on the left-hand side is everything that the playbook has done. So we'll log all the actions that were called. We'll have widgets down here to show what was done for that particular product. So I don't have the Tufin one got pushed off the screenshot, but it would show you basically we were able to block or unblock an IP address or an app. And then it'll show if anybody logged in and did anything to the event itself. And you can, of course, chat in here. And this can all be exported. You don't have to log into the Phantom interface. We can push it out to tickets, chat systems. There's other methods for that. And then the event management just kind of shows you at a high level what Phantom's been doing. You can prioritize these. Playbooks can automatically adjust severity when something happens and we find out it was risky or there was a breach, and then that can be pushed out to another ticketing system if you want. Then we got a few different views here. Case management was something that we recently got into about a year ago. So if you get an event that becomes an incident, you need to escalate it to a case. You can manage that within Tufin as well. A lot of customers, we've got about 50-50 customers that push it out to another ticketing system. So we integrate with all of the standard case management tools. And then of course reporting. All the data we have dashboards for, we can export PDF reports to show you what we've done. And it also can be exported to external systems. We can push data to Splunk dashboard, for example, and you can review it that way. This is a sample use case of a bad file coming into Phantom. So a file gets picked up, either an email alert or it could be a log from an endpoint product. So they're walking through a couple of things they're doing here where they query to see who else got the file in Splunk, looking to see if the user, what their profile contains, what kind of level user they are. And then the hunt file action, we would go to Carbon Black for that. So basically do a check for that file hash across all your endpoints. And then actually they're doing it with a couple different products that they have in their network. So these actions, basically the point of this is you can have playbooks that you might have another product that does this. So Cylance, for example, is used for the file assessment. That could be swapped out for any technology that you use. The main thing with Phantom is that we're using the infrastructure you already own. You're not buying other products to do these things. We're using what you guys use today. This is a sample email, file detonation with a bad email that comes in. So we get a file and figure out if it's bad or not using Threat Grid, block the domain in Tufin, which obviously does that on the firewalls, and then hunt for the file using Cisco and quarantining on. So these are just a few basic use cases. We have about 120, as I mentioned. Malware, phishing, those are probably the biggest ones I run into.